Hey, what's up, stock compounders? Brad here. So today I want to talk about Michael Burry, the guy who was made famous by the Big Short, by shorting the housing market in 2007. I was listening to an Invested podcast episode just earlier this week with Phil Town and Danielle Town, and they were talking about the 13F filings that had just been released. And Phil Town mentioned Michael Burry about how he's had a lot of activity lately and they've tended to be short-term bets. And Phil Town, using his system, can't really understand what Michael Burry is seeing in these companies. But he did mention it seems like Michael Burry has been having a pretty high batting average with these bets that he's only holding for 3 to 6 months at a time through this pandemic. And so, it got me curious. It got me curious to dig in to Michael Burry's 13F filings, the last four 13F filings, to kind of track, what has his performance been like in 2020. And, if we were to blindly clone Michael Burry during this year, during 2020, how would our performance be? So I dug into that. I'm going to show you guys here. You can see from the latest 13F, I've inputted how many shares he has. And then I went back through the last four 13Fs to kind of track, what he's bought and sold in which quarters. And you can see here, he's had 33 common stock positions in his portfolio throughout 2020. So that's a lot of different companies, 33 companies he's held stock in 2020. Now, for the purposes of this video, for this study, I'm only looking at companies where he bought in and sold out within 2020. Because you can see here, for example, he owned Alphabet as of the last day of 2019. But because I'm not tracking further back than that 13F, I can't estimate at what price Michael Burry got into Alphabet. So, because of that, I can't calculate what his likely returns were from that position. So I've only included companies that he's bought new in 2020 and sold out of in 2020. Now, based on that criteria, there are 7 of these 33 businesses that he's bought into and sold out of in 2020. So let's take a look at those. And I have a few more here just because they're interesting. I didn't tabulate the results for them, but companies like GameStop. If you look at the chart for GameStop, clearly Burry is making a killing on GameStop based on his share ownership through time. If you look at the price chart, it's very clear that he's doing very well with GameStop. Maxar Technologies I have in here. He did sell off a significant stake in the second quarter of 2020. So you probably could run some numbers on that one. But most of his position was built prior to 2020. And then Corvo, there's been a bit of change. Tailored Brands, it seems like he got slaughtered on Tailored Brands. If you look at a chart, Tailored Brands has just been on a downward spiral for the last couple of years. He finally got out in the second quarter. So anyway, guys, just some disclaimers here. In the podcast episode, Phil Town mentioned he thinks Michael Burry is managing around $320 million. He didn't go into, how he figured that out or why he thinks that. But you can see here, if you look at Dataroma, the most recent 13F, at that time on the last day of September 2020, Michael Burry has about 154 million in common stock investments, okay, for these U.S. holdings. So what we can't see from 13Fs, we can't see foreign holdings unless they're in the form of an ADR. We can't see cash, And we can't see what he's selling short. We can see some of his call options. Those actually show up in the 13F filings. But I don't know how to figure out at what price he bought into those call options. So I'm not including any of that in the analysis with the options. But keep in mind, the stock holdings are just about half is my best estimate of what Burry is doing right now. The rest being in cash, foreign stocks, and potentially short positions and options. So keep that in mind. So let's look at some of these. So you can see Bed Bath & Beyond, the first one here. At the end of March, he didn't have any Bed Bath & Beyond stock in the portfolio. End of June, 1 million shares show up. So sometime between April 1st and June 30th, Burry added 1 million shares of Bed Bath & Beyond to the portfolio, okay? So because Michael Burry is such a great investor, okay, bear with me here. I'm going to assume that he was able to buy at the low in that second quarter, okay? Now the low price for Bed Bath & Beyond was $3.56, okay? If I also assume, since he sold out in the third quarter, that he was able to sell out at the high price in the third quarter at around $15. That's a 4.2x on his money. If he was able to hit the low buy and the high sell from quarter 2 to quarter 3. Now, of course, he didn't do that. Nobody does that in reality. So, I'm sure he didn't make 4 times on Bed Bath & Beyond. He might have made 2 or 3. We have really no way of knowing unless we're investors with him and he reveals that in his letter to shareholders. But the exercise I really wanted to go through today is what if I were to have cloned Burry in 2020? So, for example, I see, 45 days after this 13F is released for June 30th, that he bought 1 million shares of Bed Bath & Beyond. The way I ran this is, okay, so I'm going to add Bed Bath & Beyond to my portfolio at the end of the month when it's publicly disclosed that Michael Burry has bought the stock, okay? So at the end of August, I'm buying into Bed Bath & Beyond. Now, of course, I found out just a few weeks ago that Michael Burry sold out of Bed Bath & Beyond, okay, from the latest 13F filing. So the way I'm running that is I'm going to assume, since I don't know the price at the end of November, I'm just going to use the price today, okay? So what I did here is I said, all right, I'm going to buy at the price on August, I think it was August 31st, August 30th or August 31st. The price was $12.18. Now the price today is $21.79, okay? So if I was blindly cloning Michael Burry, I could have easily done that, okay? I could have bought at the end of the month when it was known that he's buying, and I could have sold at the end of the month when it's been disclosed that he's sold. By the way, there was a great study done by some professors at the University of Chicago who essentially ran this exact methodology on, if you had cloned Warren Buffett from, I think it was 1978 to 2007, 30 years of cloning Buffett. If you had simply bought at the end of the month when it was disclosed that Buffett had bought, and then waited until it was disclosed that he had sold to sell at the end of that month, you'd have gotten like a 21% annual return over those 30 years, okay? So this is something that anyone can do just by looking at 13F filings. But I wanted to know, how would it have gone to do this for Michael Burry in 2020? So, we've got 7 positions here that, were new to his portfolio in 2020, and he sold out in 2020. So let's take a look at how one would have done, okay? So let's say we're putting $1,000 into each of the 7 at the end of that month of the 13F filing, and then we're selling, the entire stake at the end of that month when we know that he has sold. So all I did was I looked up the buy price and the sell price in those months when the 13Fs came out. And you can see how you would have done in each of these 7 companies, okay? You would have invested $7,000, $1,000 in each, and you would have ended up with $11,420, okay? And most of these you would have just held for 3 months, okay? Because that was, they showed up in one 13F, in the next 13F, they were gone. So that works out to a 63% return, okay? Now keep in mind, like I said, a lot of these hold times, I think they might have all been, they were all 3-month hold times, okay? So 63%, and you'd gotten your money back in 3 months. So, that's pretty awesome. I'll just assume it was annualized, that, you couldn't have done anything else with it in that time. But, a 63% annualized return is pretty solid. If we're looking at the S&P 500, what it has done in 2020, the yield to date is 12%. So if I look at, January 2nd, I think that was the first day the market was open in 2020, to today, November 27th, a 12% return for the S&P 500. Now, if we look at the bottom, okay, on March 23rd of 2020 is when the S&P 500 bottomed. That was the lowest day for the S&P 500. From that day until now, the market has gone up 63%. So, either you can, I'm not saying to do this, but you could have cloned Burry for a 63% return this year, or you could have timed the market perfectly and bought right at the bottom. And, today you'd be up 63%. So, I thought that was pretty interesting. 63% for these, 3-month holds. We don't know how long Burry is holding. I mean, for this one, he could have bought on June 30th and sold on July 1st. We have no idea, more than these specific points in time, what he's doing. And also, with Maxar Technologies, he could have gotten his position up to 2 million sometime in the first quarter and then sold back down to 900,000 by March 31st. So there could be a lot of wiggles in between these data points, but this is the data that we have to work with from the SEC. So I just thought this was a really interesting exercise. I am quite impressed at seemingly how well Michael Burry is doing with some of these shorter term bets. I also want to mention, this is really important. So the percentage of his fund that he's putting on these bets, like I said, Phil Town thinks his fund has somewhere around 320 million of assets under management. If we assume, that he bought this many shares at the low price in the quarter that he bought, that's what I'm using for the percent of the fund. Certainly, invariably, it's going to be a bit higher than that. So we could probably round these up to, on average, like 2%. Michael Burry is making 2% bets on, these kind of short-term stock investments here. So, that's important to understand because, if you decide, all right, I'm going to go all in on cloning Burry and, I'm going to put 1/7 of my net worth into each of these 7 bets, that could turn out very differently than what Michael Burry is doing. Because, like I said, he could have short positions, a bunch of cash. He's playing in options. He's only betting 2% on each of these. So, that's really important to keep that concentration in mind. This is kind of the risk level. How much skin in the game he's got for each of these bets. So that's, like I said, really important. But some of these potential payoffs, guys, if he was able to nab the low and then sell at the high, I mean, you look at Michael's here. Who's buying Michael's? Nobody's buying Michael's, but I mean, it's a potential 6x in one quarter. So, it's very impressive. Some of the numbers, some of the volatility on these companies that he's been buying. I know GameStop, I thought of Karan, another YouTuber that I follow. Check him out. He's been really bullish on GameStop. And I'm guessing he found the idea for GameStop from Michael Burry. But at one point, GameStop, I mean, the price per share versus the cash on the books per share, it was pretty impressive how low the price got for GameStop. And you can see, I'm sure Michael Burry is just making a killing on this one so far. So anyway, guys, I wanted to mention Jack in the Box as well. It's just crazy. Jack in the Box, if you look at a price chart, it just goes a total V. I mean, it went from 89 to like 19 in what seemed like a week or something like that. So just nuts. So really interesting companies here. Well, one thing I wish I would have done is included the market cap here. I'm curious, how big some of these companies are. I imagine some of them are smaller, and you tend to get more volatility and potentially better bargains in some of the smaller cap stocks. Obviously, Boeing and Facebook are pretty big. But anyway, guys, I just thought that was an interesting exercise. If you like this video, smash the thumbs up. Let me know if you'd like to see more videos kind of digging in to what different super investors are doing and who you'd like to see me dive into in terms of which super investors you guys are following and would like to see more content around. But I will share this spreadsheet. And if you click on the All tab, I populated really all of the common stock holdings for the last 4 13Fs. So if you guys want to play with this, if you want to decide, all right, I'm not going to assume he got in at the low. Maybe he got in at the midpoint for the quarter and kind of track his returns that way. I mean, you're welcome to use the data I scraped from the 13F filings to kind of slice and dice the data as you see fit. I'll share this in the description. With that, I wanted to mention one more thing, guys. So ticker terminal. I mentioned you can't see Michael Burry's foreign holdings in his 13F filings through the SEC, but you can see some foreign holdings through a platform called Ticker Terminal. I found Ticker Terminal through the corner of Berkshire and Fairfax message board. It's an awesome subscription message board where it's like $23 US, I think, for a lifetime membership, and just really high quality investment kind of discourse dialogue in there. But I found a link to Ticker Terminal. It's free. It's a beta version. I'm sure they're going to be charging at some point, but they're not charging yet. So if you look in here, there's a few foreign holdings, and these his two largest that are reported through Ticker Terminal are from South Korea, where I'm sure many of you know Monish Pabrai has also bought some things in South Korea. And of course, if you guys are going to do anything with cloning on these foreign holdings, make sure you verify that this data is accurate. It just says shareholder report here. I'm assuming it's at the company level, so presumably some of these companies are required to disclose who their major shareholders are. But try to find other sources to back this information up. But it's interesting to see where people like Burry and other super investors are buying in the world. So South Korea and Japan, it looks like, is where most of Burry's activity is overseas. So just wanted to give a plug to Ticker Terminal. I'll leave a link in the description. It's a great way to analyze foreign stocks. It's really, it's most of the foreign stocks are not covered by companies like Morningstar and Value Line unless you can buy them as an ADR in the US. But this allows you to go deep into the financials of foreign companies. For example, I can click Autech and tell me description of the company. I can go into price history. That's easy enough, just doing a search. But I can do a deep dive on the financials. Okay, so this is very valuable if you're researching foreign investments. It's very hard to get access to this data. I believe this is pulled from Capital IQ, so a very high quality database of global companies. But anyway, guys, just want to give that plug. I will leave it at that. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.